My brother Alan Parr was unfortunately scammed and ended up sharing a video about it. You guys should really watch the entire video. Long story short, we talked about this before. It didn't just happen to Anthony. It didn't happen just to Alan. It happened to my buddy Anthony O'Neill as well. It's a Facebook scam where people reach out. They offer you an exorbitant amount of money to appear on a virtual pod. And what they do is they get access to the back end of your Facebook, and then they take over your page. In his case, they took over his payouts. So they were taking money from his channel, and they took over his ad manager, which can really run the numbers up in terms of your people paying for your ads. So thankfully, by the grace of God, nothing like that has happened all the way for us. Maybe 4 years ago, I had my Facebook ad account hacked.
I was on a call with one of these guys for us, and I stopped when they said, all right, just add this email.
So we had our ad account hacked a long time ago. That I fixed. That took forever.
Yeah.
He didn't have his ad account on. He had his whole thing, his whole shindig. But this almost happened to us. And that's what you were gonna say. Is like you got on the phone and you sniffed it out. Thank God.
Yeah. It was looking sketchy, and I was like, well, let's just see where this goes. And then it got to the point where he's like, add this email into your administrator section here. And I pause. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get back to you, bud.
This ended up happening to Alan, and man, this is so sad. Like, he lost his Facebook. He lost his ad account. They scammed a bunch of money. Thankfully, Bank of America held him down. It took him 6 months to get everything back.
Ugh, not good.
6 months to get everything back. Okay, so he shares some interesting confessions in this, and this leads him to full on confess to his audience, which I found extremely refreshing. And I do believe it's a cautionary tale that if you're a creator, if things are starting to pop off, like, we all need to be mindful of this in our heart, because we could all be led astray by this. I mean, the scriptures warn against what he's about to describe. So go ahead and let's jump into this.
Let me share with you some of the lessons I learned from this. All right, the enemy uses the lure of money to distract us. What did Jesus say? He said, the deceitfulness of riches can distract us. Guys, I get a lot of podcast invitations by the grace of God, a lot of them. And most of them, I typically just say, hey, I can't make it for a variety of reasons. All right, for a variety of reasons. But this one got my attention. Why? Because I could possibly be in front of 3.3 million people, and they were paying me $3,000 for maybe an hour's worth of work.
Deal. I'm in.
If it sounds too good to be true,
you get paid, and you're the smaller creator.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about podcasts: no one that's bigger than you is gonna offer to pay you to come on their podcast.
Yes.
The very most that may happen is if someone's coming up and they're trying to get their stuff popping fast, they may pay you for an appearance.
Yeah.
If someone is at the same level, they'll cover your expenses to travel, and they'll take care of your expenses so that you're not taking an L to go on their podcast that they're going to make money off of.
Yeah.
If you're kind of at the same growth level. But no one that's at 3 million, like Joe Rogan's not paying me to come on his podcast.
Yeah.
And just for the record, we get about 2 or 3 of these a day.
Requests to pay to come on the thing. Yeah.
All the time. So that's kind of like a, yeah. And by the way, if you ever get anything like this from us,
it's not real.
This is not real. All right. Go ahead.
Guys, I confess to you right now that I was lured away because of money.
Jeez.
Because quite frankly, yes, he has 3.3 million followers, but if he wouldn't have offered the $3,000, I still don't know if I would have said yes. I still don't know. But the fact that they put the money in there, it just lured me away and I got deceived. I confess that. I confess that to God. I confess that to you.
After the incredible success of our Bless God prayer journal, many of you guys began to ask for something that had a planner. And so we combined our Bless God prayer journal with a brand new leadership planner that jam-packs the same things from our prayer journal with a planner, goal setting, leadership meeting, and notes. With the next pages, you can see different sections right along here of this leadership planner where you can start out with actionable goals, 12 months of calendar, our original prayer journal prompts, our leadership journal with the proven problem solution framework, and of course, just free write notes. This leadership planner is based off of Matthew 25:14-30, which of course is the parable of the talents. The vision of the planner is to help you make the most of your time, talent, and treasure. Head over to blessgod.shop and get yours today. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.
Money, oftentimes, the enemy can use money sometimes to get us off course and to distract us and to deceive us from doing what God has called us to do. because we think it's a blessing. We thinking, oh, God must be blessing me with this. No, not every monetary thing is a blessing from God. Sometimes the enemy uses money to distract us from what God wants to do in our lives. All right. So
yeah, every opportunity, quote unquote, is not always from God.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's opportunities that aren't from God. And in this situation, it wasn't even a real opportunity. It was a scam.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not even a real opportunity. But yeah, I think he's spot on in that, like, if you're not careful and guarded against your heart, you could definitely be in a spot where, I like how you made the thumbnail. Right
I couldn't resist.
This guy. It was a good frame. It's a good frame. If you're not careful, you could easily slide into this. And you know, the interesting thing is, Alan's not hurting for funds.
Yeah.
He's doing really well. His YouTube is over 1 million subscribers. He has business outside of anything YouTube related that he still oversees.
Really?
Yeah, that still do well. And he does fine. Like, he's doing well. And so it's like, it's interesting that it's sometimes those of us that do well can be tempted with this sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I appreciate his vulnerability. Play a little bit more of this.
So that's the first thing, is that just because there's an opportunity maybe in your life or in my life to make more money doesn't mean it's always from God.
Right.
You have to see for yourself whether that is.
Make more money at the expense of what?
Yeah.
Right? Just because there's an opportunity to make more money at the expense of what? I don't do a lot of traveling because it's usually at the expense of my family. If they can't afford to bring me and my family out, we can't make a little trip out of it, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Usually.
And
Unless it's something I believe God's telling me to do and I could pop in and out.
And even in this scenario, that's hyper literal. Like, the cost, I'm sure, if they hacked his ad account, they were able to spend money and do things, and he actually had to, he lost money. I mean, maybe the banks recover it, but the expense ends up being a lot more than the actual $3,000.
Right.
And then, but the same applies, like you said, with family and personal time as well.
Yeah. Well, it's also called opportunity cost. Right.
There is not the case. Guys, the second lesson, oh my goodness, this is huge. The second lesson that I learned is that my faith and my focus was not on God, but it was on Facebook. I wasn't trusting God to get me my page back for the most part. My faith was in everything but God. I was calling my friends. I put out posts on Facebook. I know some of you all saw those. I was contacting old students that I taught at the high school that I used to teach at for 11 years that I knew worked at Facebook or Meta. And I was like, hey, can you get me inside to talk to somebody? Can you hook me up with this? I contacted friends who knew that other people got their pages hacked and they got them back. I was trying everything. And I was consumed with this. I was so distracted. I was so bitter. I was so preoccupied. And my wife will tell you, when I get my grips on something, when I want to do something, it's lights out. Like, there's no changing my mind. I'm locked in. And so my faith during these months that was happening, it was all over the place.
Yeah, and he goes on to say that basically he couldn't run the ads, and so he was depending on getting this back so that he could run the ads, and instead of depending on God to bring the right people into the program. So it's yeah, man, that's a scary place to be, and you definitely don't want to be in a place where you crash out. You know, shout out to PK Gent who said that. You got to know your own limits and your own boundaries around stuff, right? Because you could easily just completely lose it over something that's in the grand scheme, you know. And he goes on to give you a bunch of practical stuff to two-step authentication and having a software for your passwords and all that stuff. He goes on to give practical stuff, but I thought that was interesting. Go watch the full video if you guys want to hear like the entire backstory. Again, we've covered it, but it's man, it's sad, and it sucks that there's people out there like doing this sort of stuff. It's like Christian creators at that, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, they're doing it to everybody, but it's so evolved because now they're contacting people that have platforms.
Yeah.
And so it also feels more specific than like Nigerian prince.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, it's yes, but I guess what I'm getting at is like, you know, it's like you got your Bible in your car. I feel like the person that's gonna come break into your car, if they see a Bible, they're gonna be like, oh, like, I'm gonna leave this dude alone. You know? Like, that's how I think.
Wow.
You know, but apparently that's not how thieves
You
think.
underestimate
Apparently, yeah. I underestimate depravity, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think. It's like, oh man, this dude's like trying to tell people about Jesus. Like, even if you don't believe in Jesus, you're like, oh, he's like trying to help people, you know? Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Comment down below and let me know what you think. And be sure to check out this video that YouTube is recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.